Once again, we're back with ELAVI TRUTH TV, and today I'm going straight into the topic of, did the Rockefeller Foundation plan this pandemic? Now, first of all, is this episode going to be about a document that they published in 2010 called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development. But first, I want to look at what the Rockefeller Foundation are actually doing now. So let's go in.
Now, the Rockefeller Foundation, one of the largest private donors in the U.S., is rolling out its proposal for a national strategy. Its goal includes reaching 30 million coronavirus tests per week, hiring up to 300,000 people to do contact tracing, and creating a digital sharing platform to encourage the faster spread of data. The Rockefeller Foundation thinks the plan will cost $100 billion.
Staggering amounts of money we're talking about here, and really, really big achievements that they're trying to do in this pandemic. So what kind of company are the Rockefeller Foundation? Well, I would like to go to David Rockefeller Jr. and while we look at this little bit of this man speaking, I want you to look at two things. Firstly, pay attention to the people he's talking about, the timescales he's talking about, and also look at what's written on the podium.
So what would my forebears think about the foundation today? Certainly very proud of the 99 years so far, proud of the individuals, institutions, and fields that the foundation had supported. The Rocky Docs, and if you've been occasionally watching the flashes of images up here, you saw the check to Albert Einstein that turned out to be twice what he asked for. That was very good. And the gifts to the contributions to institutions, to Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. Judy mentioned the Red Cross, to the Peking Union Medical College, still existing today, having survived both a Japanese invasion and the communist repressive regime of the communist years, still the place where, by the way, I understand that if you are a high government official, that's where you want to be taken care of. So wonderful, and it's having its 100th anniversary almost at the same time that we are.
Most people can't comprehend planning for 100 years, but this company is thinking about planning for 100 years. But how did the Rockefeller Foundation start? Well, the thing is this, in terms of planning, many people can't even plan past a day, especially in this time. Some people can plan for weeks, some people can plan for years, but I've never met anybody who can plan for 100 years, and it speaks of real wealth. So where did this wealth come from? Let's have a look at the foundation of the Rockefeller Foundation, the foundation of the Rockefeller Foundation. Let's look at that.
When you look at the wealthiest men alive today, topping the charts are tech billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. But actually, the wealthiest businessman to have ever lived died almost a century ago.
In the 19th century, millions crossed the ocean seeking freedom and opportunity. They find a country starkly divided between the haves and the have-nots. Between 1860 and 1900, the richest 2% of American families own 1/3 of the nation's wealth. These bare-knuckled businessmen rule industry, Wall Street, and Washington. The most powerful of all, oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire. His company, Standard Oil, savages and then swallows up its competitors and ends up controlling 90% of the American oil industry. By 1896, he has assets of $200 million, over $5 billion in today's money.
We are talking about an organization that funded Albert Einstein, the Red Cross, so many organizations, all stemming from one man, all stemming from one man's interaction with money. Money is power in this world, is it not? And the reason why I've tried to set up this scenario, again, excuse the pun because the document is called Scenarios, is because I want to take it out of the realms of conspiracy theories and I want to put it into the realms of possibility rather than, conspiracy theories. Because the document that I'm speaking about is available for anybody to download. And it's an interesting document because, as I say, it's called Scenarios. And one of the areas is talking about lockstep, a concept called lockstep. Now this concept is about locking down the entire system and moving certain agendas forward. So in the subtitle of lockstep, it talks about a world of tighter top-down governmental control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. That's very interesting, isn't it? Because that's what we're living through in a sense. But is that enough to say that they could have possibly planned this whole event? Growing citizen pushback. Now this was a very interesting area for me because I've looked at all the protests in the world and what's going on, and it's interesting to think that an organisation in 2010 could have planned for citizen pushback, citizen unrest, and they define it as pushback. So it's something that they knew would happen. So I want to take you deeper into this scenario that they wrote about in 2010. And the way it's written in the past tense as if this has already happened. So it starts off by saying this. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, the new influenza strain originated from wild geese was extremely virulent and deadly. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked across the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months. Wow, sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to anyone? Is it what we're living through at the moment? And remember, if I had written this in 2010, would it have looked like I could have done it because I don't have the resources, but a company like, an organisation, should I say, like the Rockefeller Foundation, with a history like the Rockefeller Foundation. So let's go on. The majority of them healthy adults who died. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt, debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. The pandemic blanketed the planet. Through disproportionate numbers died in Africa, Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire in the absence of official containment protocols. But even in developing countries, containment was a challenge. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So within this document, they painted the entire scenario of what would happen. And again, I'm encouraging people to download this document, search PDF, scenarios, narratives, lockstep. It goes on to talk about China in particular. The Chinese government quickly imposed an enforcement and mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders. Aren't they trying to make us take the blueprint of China in dealing with the pandemic? Are they not? Let's go on. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their authority flexed their authority, and imposed airtight rules and restrictions, from mandatory wearing of masks to body temperature checks at entries to communal spaces like train stations and supermarkets. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Isn't this exactly what we're living through today? Now again, I can't stand the term conspiracy theorist because it's factual that I'm holding this document, and it's factual that everybody can go out and find this document if they want and read it. And if you have wisdom and discernment, you'll be able to understand that there's only two ways a document like this can be written. One, clever guessing that would have been so cleverly guessed that it pinpointed every aspect of this now global pandemic, or it was a planned event. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck and even intensified. Isn't that the plan of what's happening? That the controls will never go away. The strict controls that we see creeping in day by day will intensify and never go away. Because that's what the elites want. That's what the Rockefellers want. They don't want us out there. They want us locked in our homes. They want us to be in lockstep, as they call it. I'm encouraging people to understand what's happening, and there is a lot of people understanding what's going on. We're in a planned future, as it states, scenarios for future of technology and international development. Development is a buzzword, it seems, in this new world that we're in, a buzzword for control, authoritarian control. I do not want to be the bringer of bad news, but I do want to be the bringer of truth and reality. You, my friends, are no longer in a free world. You are the inheritors of lockstep, a system whereby all our freedoms and basically our souls are going to be taken away from us. Because in other videos I'm going to go into some of the technology that's going to be used against us. I've got a video that I'm working on at the moment to do with social credit. We'll go into that because I did mention China, or should I say that the document did mention China. So to end, short video, we need to ask the question again, because I don't believe I've answered the question. I've just posed the question. You've got to answer the question, because I don't want to answer the question for you. I know what I believe the answer is. And I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anyone. I'm just trying to bring what I believe is the truth. So once again, goodbye from ELAVI TRUTH TV. I'll see you very soon.